Hello, my name is Mark Jones, Director at Higher Plane Research and Education and Visiting Professor at the University of South Wales in the Centre of Criminology there. I just wanted to do a really short webinar to help introduce and cover some of the main themes and topics and drivers behind the piece of work that I've been involved in recently, a diversion project, looking at disparity within the criminal justice system and the use of out-of-court disposals and pre-court diversion in relation to the experiences of people from ethnic minority backgrounds. There is a general focus within this project, but there's also a specific focus on women and children as well. I'd firstly just like to do a few thank yous in terms of people that have been involved facilitating funding and supporting me in this work. And first I'd like to thank Joanne Hopkins, who is the Programme Director for Diverse Childhood Experiences and Criminal Justice and Violence Prevention at Public Health Wales, for helping me get this work out there in terms of hosting on the website. So thank you very much, Joe. And I'd also like to thank the South Wales Police and Crime Commissioner's Office, in particular Emma Walls, for initially sort of having the conversations and driving the idea behind this project. And also a really committed steering group that was made up of people from the Youth Justice Blueprint team, the Women Justice Blueprint team, and other people from within criminal justice in Wales. And yeah, the project's been going for about sort of 6, 7, 8 months now, and we're at a stage where we're really happy to share quite an extensive lit review with you, as well as an executive summary. And I think there'll be a few other documents that get added to this site shortly, which include an infographic on racial trauma-informed practice and a kind of infographic on appropriate and effective diversion approaches when supporting people from ethnic minority backgrounds. So yeah, essentially the background to this project really is that the Cardiff Race Equality Task Force highlighted a need within their locality to look at this sort of notion of disparity within diversion and out-of-court disposals. And of course, with the Anti-Racism Action Plan for Criminal Justice in Wales being published in September 2022, and of which I was the lead author for that plan, and I worked really closely with Clinks in terms of engaging the sector and the workforce and a large proportion of people from ethnic minority backgrounds to create that plan. You'll see that Commitment 7, which links to prevention, early intervention and rehabilitation, really captures that idea that we know that there's great disparity within the experiences of people from ethnic minority backgrounds in the criminal justice system in diversion. And if we can actually focus on early intervention and prevention, then we can stop that bottleneck and stop that disparity flowing through the system, as we know that it does. So this project, what we're sharing with you today is only stage 1 of the project. There are actually 4 stages to this project, and that will be ongoing work into 2024. And the first stage was an extensive review of the literature, as I said earlier. The second stage is currently in process, and it's actually taking a case study approach where it's looking at Cardiff Bay Police Hub and using that as a local lens for understanding diversion and out-of-court disposal practice. And then there'll be a community engagement phase where, after the case study, learning has been kind of collected and understood, and that linked to really the learning from the lit review. What might diversion practice look like? What should diversion practice look like? And then engaging those kind of learning and recommendations with people with lived experience, with people that serve and provide services for people from ethnic minority backgrounds and the wider criminal justice workforce as well. Finally, that will mean stage 4, where we have a pretty conclusive report where we feel there is a fairly solid or a really solid understanding of what diversion practice should look like to support people from ethnic minority backgrounds in the best way possible. And what we mean by that, and that's captured within the plan, is that it's holistic, it's person-centred, that it's racially trauma-informed, that it's culturally competent, and it essentially meets the needs of people from ethnic minority backgrounds. So that's the kind of premise of the project, the stages of the project, the main drivers and collaborators within the project, and I'm really honoured to be part of this part of this and be the person that wrote the lit review. As I mentioned, that on the site now there is indeed an extensive lit review, which you may not want to take the time to read because it's about 42,000 words. But there is an executive summary which is shorter, which again captures the main themes and learning. And then there either will be, or we will definitely add 2 infographics going forward, and they are an overview of what racial trauma-informed practice looks like, some main themes and pointers for practice there, and then finally an overview, a lovely one-sheet overview really, of what diversion practice, effective diversion practice, should look like, could look like, if we were to take the learning so far in terms of supporting people from ethnic minority backgrounds and making sure there really is that diversion away from having too much contact with the criminal justice system. Within the actual literature review, there were several areas of focus. The first area of focus was just purely looking at out-of-court disposals and diversion programs. And then there was a deeper analysis of pre-court diversion. And then there was a section within the lit review really analysing women-specific needs within criminal justice. Although there wasn't extensive literature available, what that meant in terms of what women from ethnic minority backgrounds may need, would need, should need to make sure that they're effectively supported in pre-court diversion, and exactly the same lens then for children. And so embodying that child-first kind of approach that we should all be using, but looking at it through an ethnic minority lens, and what learning, what research is out there again, and not a load of literature there. So, and then finally, what we thought would be really useful in the project is if diversion is about supporting the whole person and their needs, and it's supporting behaviour change, and it's supporting that journey towards desistance and new positive identities, what might education, learning and theory give us to further enhance our understanding of how we can support people to grow, essentially, to grow in ways that they have greater self-agency and grow in ways where they can make informed, positive life choices for their future. So that's the areas that the lit review discussed, and from that, and again, if you read the lit review and the executive summary, you'll see that each of the sections have very definitive, very clear recommendations and learnings. But if you synthesized all of that learning, what was the key learning from this first phase of the project? And again, I will need to look down at some notes for these because there's 11 kind of main recommendations from the project so far. And that we need long-term resource, we need strong and transparent leadership and governance of our diversion process, of our out-of-court disposal decision making. We need high-quality education and training to develop culturally competent and anti-racist practitioners who use racial trauma-informed practice. And really, the next bit then is that therefore we need practitioners that can talk confidently and create environments where people feel safe and secure, and that they can discuss culture, ethnicity, racism, racial trauma, religion, and therefore then we're better able to support experiences and needs. What we've learned is diversion relationships need to have mutual respect, and they need to be non-judgmental. They need to be supportive of the client, the person that's offended. And I think what's really important here, and this is quite a strong message, is that because someone's committed a crime, they may be termed a criminal or offender, but they're also a victim in many ways. And what we know is that people that have committed crimes or do commit crimes or engage with the criminal justice system, they have a whole range of other needs and experiences that have come before them. And when we're looking at using an ethnic minority lens of that, we know that people from ethnic minority backgrounds have experienced daily, weekly, monthly racism likely from the day that they've been born. And so this element of ongoing and accumulative racial trauma is very real and has very real consequences on how people see the world and how they act. So we need to be aware of that. We need to really use reflective practice as practitioners, but diversion activities need to support people that have been diverted away from the criminal justice system to also use critical thinking and reflective practice. And as I mentioned earlier, it's all about increasing self-agency and making positive, informed life choices. What we also know, and again this won't be a massive surprise to people that work in this space, is that people from ethnic minority backgrounds have a real mistrust of practitioners and the criminal justice system, and really feel that there are multiple barriers Not just that, as I said, that they've probably engaged with institutions all of their life, education, health, where they have felt discriminated against, where they felt their needs are not being listened to and heard. And so practitioners need to be really aware of that we're working from a position of mistrust from people we're trying to support, so we need to be able to break down those barriers, hence why we need to be reflective, racially trauma-informed, anti-racist practitioners. Because of all of that, though, we need to loosen and make our criteria and our eligibility criteria for diversion and out-of-court disposals much more flexible, much broader, much more forgiving, and much more inclusive. And so that would be a shift in what's currently kind of implemented in the UK at the moment. We also suggest that diversion practice should be standardised across Wales, so there's a set model, and that then we are working from the same sort of quality approach. And there needs to be a lot more research on the experiences of people from ethnic minority backgrounds in terms of diversion experiences, in terms of pre-court and out-of-court disposals, and that we need to continue to use those with lived experience of criminal justice and of diversion to help support that in a co-production way. And I think it's really important to say that the aforementioned stages of this project, there will be focus groups and engagements with people from ethnic minority backgrounds, and that will be facilitated by and with people that also have lived experience, or another phrase, are experts through experience. So that's really, really important. We don't need more people from white majority backgrounds writing what should be the provision and what should be the way for services that are meant to be meeting the needs of those from ethnic minority backgrounds. What we've also found, and what the literature says quite strongly, is that we need to develop specialist provision and support for people from ethnic minority backgrounds that are independent of the criminal justice system in terms of statutory provision. But although we do need to create these almost independent, trusted spaces so that people from ethnic minority backgrounds do feel safe, do feel that they can be transparent and vulnerable and start their desistance journey, start their journey in appropriate ways, we're also very aware that this creates a learning opportunity. So that work, that independent work, that independent specialist provision should support interagency working with statutory sector so that they can observe, learn and develop themselves as well, so that there is that kind of positive development dynamic as well. Not a surprise as well that we need to develop a greater ethnicity within our workforce so that the workforce represents those it's trying to support. And finally, there is a lot of mistrust of the criminal justice system, and there's a lot of mistrust of this idea of diversion as well. And so there needs to be a lot more raising awareness with communities, with families, that real on-the-ground approach, as well as that more strategic approach, so that when people are within the decision-making process of should I accept a diversion or not, or should I try and take this more formally and defend myself, that people more readily want to take diversion, and that there is a trust that it is about supporting the person and developing the whole person, and it isn't some trick, or it isn't transparent. And I think what we have also learned is that awareness raising and that education also needs to extend to professionals, especially those that work within supporting people that have committed or allegedly committed a crime, in terms of solicitors and lawyers, because what we found also is that the advice and guidance that solicitors and lawyers give families, if it's in the context of younger people and children, isn't always positive and promoting the option, the decision to go with the diversion and that preventative measure. So they're the kind of 11 learnings and recommendations really that have come out of the lit review. And as I said, obviously the in-depth lit review and the executive summary discusses that in much greater detail. But it's really useful, I think, just to have a fairly short webinar, just to kind of have an introduction to the main themes, the reason behind the project. And thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy this work, and we're looking forward to continue this work as well, and really make a change to diversion practice, pre-court diversion practice within Wales. Thank you very much.